Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. It would be nice if people online could write in the chat to confirm, so we will be 100% sure if everything's fine from the technical point of view. So I will wait a sec for some confirmation in the chat. All fine. Okay, good. So it works, yes. It works. So again, good morning. My name is Ewa Kocińska-Lange. I have the pleasure to lead the team of NCBR Office in Brussels. NCBR stands for National Center for Research and Development. That's the Polish RNI funding agency, and we are here in Brussels to support Polish RNI community, especially in relation to Horizon Europe, but also other initiatives that are centrally managed here by the European Commission. And one of our activities is to organize this series of Brussels talks, events that are happening on a regular basis, to which we invite very important people. And we have a guest today with us who's exactly this profile. But before I will introduce you, Bruno, I would like to just mention briefly some technicalities, mostly for the people who are joining us online. So if you would like to ask a question, please write this in the chat. We will look at this all the time and try to answer your questions. Of course, you can do it in wherever you want. If there are some technical problems, I hope not. Also, please notify us via the chat. And for our audience here, of course, typical raise your hand. It should work for us. So the small scenario for the event is that we will have first some introduction, and of course then Q&A on the basis of questions we already received from you when you registered to the event. But also if something else is popping up you would like to ask, feel free to do so. Okay, I think that technicalities, that's it. So welcome. We have Bruno Maquart with us today, and Bruno is CEO of Universcience. That's your first function, and that's the French institution, of course, devoted to public engagement, citizens engagement, and communicating scientific and technical culture. And it has two venues in Paris, Palais de la Découverte and Cité des Sciences de l'Industrie. And the second function of Bruno is president of ECSITE. So this is the European Network of Science Centers. And from that reason, we invited you here because we would like to discuss science engagement, and you have quite some experience in the topic, not only because of those two functions, but also in the past you've been the director of Centre Pompidou and also of France Museums Agency that was responsible for the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. So quite some experience and yeah, definitely knowledge about how to do this activities related with science engagement properly and effectively. So we chose this topic because we hear about science engagement quite a lot recently, also in relation to Horizon Europe, and to really put more attention to needs of citizens as it comes to daily life and how the ways we can improve this. And European Commission said that the people are in the center of European RNI. And the challenge is to respond to the needs, but also the challenge is to listen to them and to hear them and to have a dialogue with citizens about science. It's not an easy task, as we know. I would, I think, like to give you the floor now for some introductory statement about ECSITE, about general experiences, and then we will proceed to questions and answers. So, Bruno, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation, and I'm happy to be here with you and to be online as well. So as you said, I'm the president of Universcience, which is a public institution in France, national public institution that runs two venues, you said it. Palais de la Découverte is an old one because we've been founded in 1937, so it's back. And our premises are under renovation now, and we are planning to reopen to the public between 25 and 26 after the Paris Olympic Games next year. The other one is more recent. It has been opened in 1986, which is called Cité des Sciences et de l'Industrie, Science and Industry City, in a way. And we form one of the biggest science centers in Europe. And before pandemic, we had a record year. We hosted nearly 3 million visitors in 2019. And we try to recover from this record number. So as you said, I'm speaking to today as president of ECSITE, which has been founded more than 30 years ago. And ECSITE is brings together the family of those who build a bridge between science and society. Science engagement is the expression that we use. We are based in Brussels on the Belgian law, but we of course cover all over Europe. EU members, non-EU members, from Portugal to Poland, of course, from Greece to Finland, and not to forget Ukraine. We are more than 300 members, and we are very diverse because we have natural history museums, science centers, science museums. We are a community that, of course, encourages sharing and working together to inspire each other in order to fulfill our societal responsibilities. I will elaborate on this in a couple of minutes. Here, for instance, in Brussels, we have l'Institut Royal des Sciences Naturelles de Belgique, the Natural History Museum. We have other Belgian members, of course. Not far from here in Flanders, in Mechelen, we have Technopolis, which is a big science center. Or Hydro-Do, a smaller one in Herentals, where I will go after our conversation today. And in Poland, the main science center, of course, you know it, is called the Copernicus Science Center in Warsaw, but we have, beside that, 15 members in Poland. So Poland is a big country and a very important one for our association. We are non-profit organization or non-commercial organizations. We are funded by cities, local, national governments, Europe sometimes. We are funded by companies and of course by the public that pays tickets when entering our museums or science center. Some are part of universities, so some do research and some do not research. So we are very diverse. And what we do not only curate collections. Museums have collections, science centers do not have collections. That's the main difference between the two. We design and facilitate the relationship between science and society, or between society and science, because of course it goes both ways. And most ECSITE members host visitors physically in premises, in cities and places of all size, not only the biggest one being London, with Science Center, Natural History Museum, Warsaw, I was talking about it a couple of seconds ago, Milano, Museo della Scienza, Berlin, no, not Berlin, Munich, Monaco, with the Deutsches Museum in Paris. But you can find members of ECSITE in smaller towns, Heilbronn in Germany, Trento in Italy, Trondheim in Norway, Lviv in Ukraine, of course. And we host our visitors physically, but more and more digitally, thanks to COVID in a way, or it gave us energy like everyone. And now we are more hybrid than we were before. But we are very insisting on the benefits of having people face to face or cheek to cheek, talking to them and interacting in a physical way. We offer, what do we offer? Exhibitions, workshops, lectures, many different activities, not to mention outreach activities, and that are aimed, of course, at people who could not visit us for some reason. I'm used to say we have 3 ways to address the public. The first one is we want visitors, or we offer them to see or to hear. Like in art museum, you look at paintings or sculptures, but you are not allowed to touch them. That's the, let's say, classical way of being a museum or addressing the people. The second one is touch. We invented the museums that you can touch, what we call hands-on museum. Why touch? You touch because your hand is helping your brains to understand, and interacting with the museum with the hands is a way that's has been widely spread, and it's something that is very useful when you don't have any artifacts or any objects to show. If you don't have, if you do not have anything to show, you have to do it the proper way. And so we invented devices, what we call, which were mechanical at first, press button and something happens, and it's more, of course, more and more digital nowadays. And the third word is we want our visitors to make something. You probably know about the maker culture, and it's a new dimension that goes beyond touching things. It's helping people to make something with technical devices, of course. If I go back to ECSITE as an organization, what do? We share best practice, so we emulate. And for instance, when you are a new institution and you are looking for ideas or looking for senior partners, it's a way to find them. And of course, we communicate and we advocate for our activities. We advocate here in Brussels. We advocate in every country where we want the governments or the funding institutions aware of what we can do. Because our role goes beyond or deeper. We, of course, live in times of climate disorders, of food and water security issues, of fake news, pandemics, polarization, but also of digital technologies burst, among them AI or metaverse. We are living in times of fast development of quantum physics or green chemistry, new vaccine discoveries, new cancer treatments. So these times are thrilling and challenging at the same time. And as science engagement institutions, we make our best to empower citizens to make a difference on these global challenges of our time. Let me tell a few words about climate change, which we will show you how we work at ECSITE. Sustainability, like, of course, climate change and biodiversity crisis and so on, is for us more than just a subject of exhibitions, workshops, conferences, activities. Because our responsibility as cultural institutions is to take it on board, but we are as well economic and social actors, and we want to ensure that sustainability inspires our very operations, 360 degrees. We have a dual special relationship toward the public. So that's why we decided as ECSITE to launch a program of activities on environment, which is called ECSITE Environmental Emergency Pledge, which is part of this program. The pledge addresses our places, building. We have new buildings, but we have as well old buildings. And one of our Swedish colleagues had to close its doors because the ceiling fell down. No casualty. So places, programs, of course, what we offer, publics, people, our staff, and partnerships. So it's a way to address our activities, thinking about sustainability and decarbonation. So it has been, this pledge has been signed by more than 60 members so far from 25 countries. And as a statement of intent, it aims to encourage our members to take steps in the right direction, to drive change, everyone at its own pace, and leading them to become sustainability labs and places where we can see, learn, do, practice sustainability programs. As a whole, ECSITE members, which is around 40 million people a year through our members. And our ambition is lies in addressing the youngest to the oldest. Sometimes we're seen as kindergartens, but we're not. We address everyone, adults as well. We address schools and families. We address both the curious and the experts. We address just stop oil activists, as well as the ones who deny climate change, because there are some, as you know. The diversity of our action is great, but we all speak the same language, which is based on facts. This is the language of science. We talk from the science. This makes us trusted third parties, giving voice to scientists, citizens, lawmakers, entrepreneurs, innovators, artists, whoever, professionals of all kinds. And we know that keeping the right balance between these various diverse stakeholders requires attention and some skills. We offer, in that way, a platform, or the platform policymakers and researchers are looking for. Where could I meet people? Where could I meet citizens? Well, they are in our museums and science centers. Because we do not communicate about science. Research organizations communicate. Universities communicate. The media communicates. We do something different. We enable everyone, whatever their origin, age, educational background, social status, to encounter science, technology, and innovation by, as I said, meeting them in person. And many scientists work with the general public within our structures with our help, of course, with our methodological help. And by having people to practice, we have developed many participatory interactive formats guided by the principle of open innovation. I'm thinking in particular of fab labs or living labs, and which is something that COVID has stressed, is that we want to help people to understand how science is done. Which means not only focusing on results. Science is a list of past discoveries, but we want to put emphasis on the way knowledge is produced. What questions researchers ask, not only the answers that they gave to former questions. As you remember, of course, COVID was a big and a world exercise of science in the making. And research is a process, little known and sometimes misunderstood. Why are there scientists that do not agree at the beginning? That's the way science evolves. It's a debate, but it obeys some specific rules, and most of the time people do not understand how it works. So this is why we are very much engaged in spreading what we call critical thinking abilities. We want to develop it in the general public. Why? Mainly because our role is more and more to empower citizens, and we'd like to train them to think about and act on the world of today in a critical way, following science and its methods, which helps to sort the true from the false. For instance, by identifying cognitive biases, which are a way that leads our brains to make big mistakes. There are many cognitive biases, and if you don't know them, there are many traps when you reason. Galileo used to say, in questions of science, the authority of 1,000 is not worth the humble reasoning of a single individual. So our main purpose, I want to stress this fact, by empowering people is to allow them to become committed citizens, of course, if they want. So, a couple of words about innovation before going to the questions. We are not the best experts in the innovation ecosystem, but we believe in the implication of citizens in the research and innovation process. And we foster a culture of innovation, which is different, which is essential for innovation, culture of innovation. We do not innovate, but we are developing culture of innovation or culture, entrepreneurship culture. And to do that, we advocate for collaboration and partnerships. Researchers should work with citizens and with public engagement professionals, with us, found in the science engagement organization that we, ECSITE, represent. There's no one size fits all, of course, depends on the technology, on the research topic, on the local culture, on the TRL level, and so on. But professional science mediators or facilitators working with a researcher is the best combination for excellent science engagement. That's the recipe that I want to share with you this morning. So we advocate for the work of our members, and as I said, most of it is in the form of in-person interactions. But to address a specific issue, a pathway that includes digital offers and in-person offer, when carefully designed, could be relevant. But we should insist, and I insist, on the importance of face-to-face encounters. And it's more and more important in a digital world, where in-person relationships are more and more relevant. So to put it in a nutshell, the 21st century needs us. We are no longer places that only celebrate, the scientific powers of the past, where you come to admire the legacy or the witnesses of the technological ingenuity of our ancestors. Our museums and science centers are much more about today and tomorrow. We are living places where our common future is invented and discussed and invented.
Thank you. So we know quite a lot now about your activities, and it's indeed quite extensive in terms of scope and also countries that are involved in those activities. I think we all experience that if you don't explain science well, then it's difficult really for people to accept some changes, challenges, like we had the vaccine challenge during pandemic. Okay, we have quite some questions, and I believe maybe even some more will come. So again, I encourage you and online participants to ask questions. But we can start with something that we already got from our registrations and also our own preparations. So I think that the challenge that was also put on us, and by us I mean also like stakeholders in different countries, like representing member states or agencies like ours, and also I think other players in the RNA ecosystem, was how to really draw attention of we'll just like try to put it on the slide here, how to draw attention of the citizens really to those activities, how to do events that would attract them and involve them in the policy-making process. I think that the challenge was indeed to convince regular citizen that you can have an impact on what then is being made by scientists and by policymakers. What's your recipe for that?
Well, to be provocative, I would say it's not so difficult.
Okay.
When you realize that according to a study by the Lancet, 75% of young people see the future as frightening because of climate change, and 45%, nearly half of them, say climate concern negatively impacts their daily life all over. I think it was in Europe, yeah. While many of them feel powerless in the face of this global threat. But the positive aspect of this is that they feel concerned. And by the way, they demonstrate their interest in our streets. And they enter our museums or science center by thousands because they feel we work for the public interest. And it is for these young people that our organizations are made for, to give them the scientific backgrounds necessary for their fight, to help them advance and enforce their ideas, and to provide them with cognitive, social, technical resources. It is our mission as well as our duty. And on a broader level, the good news is that most citizens are willing to take part. According to the September 2021 Eurobarometer survey on science and technology, that's its name, 61% of European citizens think that involving non-scientists in research and innovation ensures that science and technology responds to the needs and the values of society. So, let me tell you a few words about the successes of citizen science, because it works. Citizen science programs having people helping to identify, for instance, new exoplanets, or count the birds in their gardens. We have many members that are engaged in science and citizen science programs. Data collection by citizens is so powerful and rewarding for them, provided you don't forget feedback mechanisms, of course. And second thing, let me tell you about Fab Labs, where people learn to do things by themselves. It gives them the opportunity to invent, to test, to make things using contemporary digital tools, which are new. The areas offer equipment, of course, sometimes costly equipment, methods and support to everyone, from beginners to experts, from the simply curious to 3D printing specialists. So if you ask people the right question, if you provide them with the right environment, when I say environment, it's cognitive, technical, intellectual environment, I can promise you will succeed. To put it in a nutshell, the best way to have EU citizens engaged is to work with science engagement professionals, to work with us. We are professionals and we are here. Use us. We are ready to work with anyone who is asking. And the best proof, well, one of the best proof of our added value is that we have never had as many visitors as we do in this post-COVID period. More and more people are coming and coming back.
Okay. Good indeed. The challenge is to have a variety of different instruments to engage citizens in different activities. I would have I think a question here that it's going a bit to something that you already mentioned a bit, that you should remember about the feedback, yeah? Because indeed, I think that one of the easiest way to collect some opinion of citizens is to do some surveys, yeah, easier, longer, shorter, and so on. But then if you want to have this kind of feeling on the side of citizens that yes, we did something, we made a difference, then they need to have feedback. So the question is how to measure the impact, and then how to actually go back to citizens and to tell them that, yes, you changed something.
Well, let's be frank. For the moment, we cannot measure it. It's very difficult. Yeah. Of course, we carry what we call visitor surveys, but it's very basic. And it's far from calculating or assessing the impact of what we do. We are not alone in this, you know. We don't have tools to measure the impact of school or higher education either, among students or in society in general. We don't have many impacts, a measurement of public policy, so it's a widespread problem. But the good news is that we are working on the subject, because there are initiatives to go beyond just counting the number of people that enter our building, of course. And science can be useful, because we as well have to use science as a tool to understand how we work and how citizen engagement works. So we should invest, when I say we, the society should invest more and more on citizen engagement science, which is at its beginning. We shall use science. And if I give a French example, we funded an initiative with research centers, university science centers, to identify where research was done on our subjects, and of course to encourage researchers to engage in such research. We cherish, of course, the real science. I mean, when the results are published in serious journals, scientific journals. But my message is, one, it's an open question, but two, just rely on science to assess what it is. It's not only a question of, as I said, counting the number of people, but how science can help us to understand, for instance, in this new information age where we are now, how do we interact with people? And we have questions, and we begin to have answers on how it works. The relationship between knowledge or knowledge institutions and the general public. It's changing a lot. So we have to discover this new world with the help of scientists.
Yeah, well, I understand it's not easy to gather everything, but maybe you can still give us some examples, like, you know, maybe overall data is a bit of a more challenge for the future, but you have some examples that really, like, citizens engagement really worked well and provided some results.
Yes, sure. So as I said, ECSITE members do a lot. I will go back to that in a couple of minutes. But ECSITE as an organization does things too with its members, because we are, of course, involved in numerous EU-funded initiatives through Horizon Europe or through Europe Creative, many different programs. And for instance, on cross-fertilizing education and science engagement, because we have a lot to learn from each other, because what we do is related to what we call informal education. And we think that we can have an impact on educational policies all over Europe. So we are part of programs such as road steamers, schools as living labs, team learning ecologies, make it open, etc. We are convinced that science centers and museums can be the catalyst for change, for the change we need, and that we can transform Europe into a giant living lab where every player in the field of innovation should open its gate to the public. But there is room for improvement. of course, if we want more citizens to engage with science. The first thing I want to say is about schools. During the school years, every pupil, every student should have the opportunity to discover, to visit at least one institution, one science center, one science museum. It's not the case everywhere. And so just tell the teachers, take your students to the museums, not only art museums, but as well science museums, because it's very important for the youngest generations to be very early in their development to know about science. Second thing is about resources. We need money. Everyone needs money, of course. We need to see more resources allocated not only to science itself, but to science communication or to science engagement, whatever we call it, at large. So we would like to recommend, allow at least, or allocate 1% of every research program, be it national or European, such as Horizon Europe, to scientific culture. Not for science communication, but for science engagement. You know, we succeeded to do it in France. Now, by law, every research has to devote 1% to dissemination, not only to science itself, but to make the society involved in the science. We are very proud of it. And if you think about the amount of Horizon Europe, it's 95 billion, something like that, euros for the period. 1%, it's a lot. It's nearly 1 billion euros, and it could be very useful to have such public money devoted to science engagement. The last thing is, and I will go back to the example, is we have to work with others. We are not alone. We have to join our forces. And science museums and science centers are accustomed to work with, for instance, community centers. I will take an example in the Netherlands, in Leiden, where there's a beautiful natural history museum, which is called Naturalis. If you go there, don't miss this wonderful museum. There's another one, which is Boerhaven Museum, which is a collection museum. We are very proud of having this member on board. And Naturalis works with community centers from areas in the neighborhood with a low socioeconomic status to reach kids and families that never go to museums. Never. They don't visit the museum. They are not connected to science at all. So Naturalis gives classes in schools, and they develop activities for and with schools. And there is a free weekly nature club for kids and families at the community centers that do activities around nature. That's a way to do their job, talk about nature, advocate for the planet, but reaching people that are far from this subject. And for instance, they make nest boxes, they make seed bombs, they look after soil animals, etc. So it's a mix of creating social cohesion in these neighborhoods and stimulating equal opportunities, which is a subject in itself, and public engagement around sustainability nature. I will take another example, and I will go to Poland, where our friends from Copernicus launched an initiative called SOWA. I'm not sure I pronounced it the right way. SOWA. Okay, you can read it on my screen. SOWA. Sorry for that. So, in English, Zones of Discovery, Imagination, and Activity, which is the objective of the program is to bring science and technology to local communities through partnerships with local cultural and educational institutions, museums, libraries. There are libraries everywhere. Never forget that. Community centers and school in cities with less than 150,000 inhabitants. So the program aims to create small science exhibitions and tinkering spaces set up by Copernicus. And Copernicus shares with the partner institutions where, of course, they train the people. And it's a way to go beyond your walls and to reach people that are not coming to you. Because sometimes, you know, we hear about the people and science, and people are for or against science. It doesn't mean anything. We have to go into details. In France, we have a survey led by us every year, which is a real one, I mean, a professional one. It is carried out by a specialist of polls and surveys. And what we discover is that there is a specific part of the society which is far away from science. Who are they? Women, middle age, suburbs or rural areas, and low educational level. So how do you reach these people? Well, they use the schools, because children are facilitators among their relatives, and use libraries. So we have to work with as many partners as possible.
Yes, indeed. That's the key, to try to find a way. So if someone cannot reach the science center, then the science center can maybe reach them in another ways that you mentioned. Those examples of going a bit to the communities that are not really that much involved. It's also a way of engaging more and more people in that. Do you have questions maybe here in the room? Yes.
Thank you. Very interesting presentation and very interesting examples about very practical ways of connecting science and citizens. I'm just wondering here, you mentioned a little bit policy and specifically education policy. Just wondering that area is kind of another, you know, sector which somehow needs to cross-link and to get some feedback also about what, you know, citizens think and what their priorities are and how they see science to be developing. I'm wondering how you see that policy side engagement into this process.
But this is a very good question. It is relevant to Poland because Copernicus has developed a new building, new activities, program of activities devoted to education. How science engagement activities, the one we do in research, in science centers and museums, how can they help education to evolve? Because we are craftsmen, you know, we are testing new methods every day. We are like scientists. We test, it works, we're happy, it doesn't work. Well, we try something else. We are not afraid of being wrong. We make mistakes, but we have a lot of experience in addressing youngest generations and talking about science or making them more aware of what science is, because it's not only a question of delivering information. I am the one who knows, and you are the one who doesn't know, or the opposite. That's the classical way, you know, from top down approach. I know something you don't know, you come to see me and I tell you. It's basically the way the school works. We developed different approaches, more horizontal, more interactive, and to help people engage with science in a different way and help them to reason from science, because it's not only the question of what science produces, but how it works and how do you reason in such a world. Because realize for our ancestors, the knowledge was in books. Books were in libraries, and you needed professors, universities to tell you about what was in the books. Today, everything is here. So it has never been so easy to access to knowledge. We swim in an ocean of information everywhere. It's so easy to reach information. But where we used to have interpreters, professors, people that help you to solve the truth from the false, or the truth from the false, now everything is equal. The speech of a scientist is equal to a speech of a, what we call it, well, anyone. and you need to be trained to know how to swim in this ocean of information, which is very different from the job that we used to do before. The knowledge was scarce. Now the knowledge is everywhere. So what we should work on, I mean, we all together, is to help the society and its citizens to be able to make their own judgment on very sensitive issues, because we know that we are entering a world where big choices will have to be made. It's thrilling, but I think it's an opportunity, you know, to create a new world. The planet is burning, and we know that everything has to be changed: the way we work, the way we eat, the way we travel, the way we communicate, and so on. So big choices have to be made, and many science and technological knowledge has to be involved in this process. So if I go back to education, I think this is what we can provide to educational policies to evolve in a proper way. And of course, the question of training the teachers is crucial, because they are not all of them familiar with science or scientific reasoning. So this is an issue in itself. Train the teachers.
Thank you. Any other question? Agota, please.
Thank you, everyone. I'm really interested how to become a science engagement professional. Is there such a training at the moment, or you just train yourself to become one? Or is there such really a university degree or something like that? And who are typically becoming such professionals?
Good question. Thank you. The fact is that the scene is evolving very quickly. We have more and more university degrees on this subject. And we also have developed in-house schools to train mediators, facilitators, teachers, librarians, every people that is involved in this process. So now, if you want to become a science engagement professional, you have the choice, which was not the case before. At the very beginning, you know, it came from scientists themselves that were very interested in sharing their knowledge and experience with the public. So many of them founded science centers all over Europe, but now it's more and more becoming something that we develop per se. I mean, and it requires some skills linked to many different aspects of life, but you have very, very good university degrees now. And for instance, the staff, some of them are scientists or have scientific backgrounds, like me, for instance, and some don't have, because we are big or small organizations, but we need a lot of different skills. And one of the things I want to stress is that in this change or in this new world that we are entering, we have to train people to reason well, but as well to get new skills. And innovation, of course, could be seen as a threat for jobs, but it could be seen as, of course, opportunities to develop new skills. And Europe invests a lot on training people on these new jobs that we don't know about, because we are evolving. A lot of jobs will disappear, but a lot of jobs, the new jobs, will appear. So we have to train them, and our institutions can help in this regard.
Thank you. Another question, please.
Yeah, a quick one. You mentioned the Olympic Games in Paris. I was just sort of thinking, what do you think about the mass events or big events? There is a circulating European capital of culture thing, or the youth capital. There's one now in Lublin, moving to Ghent. There is some exhibitions, space, science, very interesting and engaging for different generation of crowd. Is it something also interesting for you from the science and museums perspective?
Yes. Yes, because we think that scientific culture is part of today's culture. And if you want to be an honest man or honest woman in this century, you have to know about science and the way it works. You don't need to be a scientist. When you go to museums, you don't have to be an art historian. But you've been given the keys sometimes to understand what you see and to help you enjoy what you see. And so we think that this century is scientific century. So we say that we are part of culture, or we are in the center of today's culture. So each time we have initiatives like European Capital of Culture, we say, hello, we're here, we can help. And the answer, of course, is different according to the country. But we always try to do something. And there's another opportunity that we want to seize, is the presidency of EU Council. Now, each time a new country has this position, we try to organize something related to science engagement. So it was Sweden, this semester is Spain, and next year it will be Belgium, if I'm right. Yeah. And so each time we try to say, hello, we're here, we can help, we're useful, we are the platforms that you need. We are not the only one, of course, but we can be very useful. Don't forget science engagement institutions, because we can be very helpful in explaining why vaccination is a tremendously interesting discovery, and why decarbonizing society is, of course, urgent, and so on. So we try to be everywhere. Well, we don't have so many, we can't do everything, but we try to knock at the right doors, and the one you were talking about is a good one.
Yeah, follow up.
Just a follow up, and since you mentioned presidencies, I think the Polish one comes in a very nice date, because it's 2025. It's the 1000th history of Polish crown, as we call it. And you're very much aware that Poland is all about history very often. So culture translates to history, science translates to science, but still there is a history focus in Poland a lot. My favorite museum in Brussels is the history of Europe, the House of European History, which is popular. You can touch, you can go, you can see, you can create. Question, but double-edged question. What's your recommendation for Poland with promoting the history focus of our museum culture, and what is general trend for the European museums for history in particular? Because there is also that.
Well, it's a difficult question, and I'm not sure I'm the right guy to answer it properly, because I don't know enough about Poland to be wise enough and to give any piece of advice. I know my Polish colleagues work on it, so I'm very confident about the solutions they will find. So basically, that's what I have to say. Your second question about history. When you have collections of artifacts, of machines, of technical devices, it's easier in a way to relate with the past. But we all have, whether we have collections or not, we all have to link today's problems or questions, issues with yesterday's issues. We all do that. Sometimes we are helped by objects, sometimes not. But we are more and more exploring the future. We are museums of the future, because the future will be built on science. We are sure of it. So history is helpful, but to be more, let's say, to be more relevant to what's ahead of us. Because there's not only one future, there are futures with S, plural. Mm. We are building the future now, together, in a way. We're all building futures by working, and science museums and science centers are a platform to help build futures and to tell people that there's not only one way, but there are different ways, and they can be part of the choices that will be made, because nothing is written in advance, you know. Different things can happen, good or bad. So having citizens committed to the future of the societies, and it's very important. And if I go back to the youngest generation, to the students, okay, they demonstrate, but we want to tell them that they can engage in tomorrow's life by embracing, for instance, scientific and industrial careers. And that's something I want to say about it. Women or gender gap. It's a disaster in Europe because women do not embrace enough scientific careers. It's a disaster because we are, of course, we are avoiding discoveries made by very bright brains that are women brains, and we should absolutely work in that direction to help young girls to embrace scientific careers. It's a common failure, I should say. Or on the positive way, there's a lot to do. It's a big challenge, and our science centers and museums, we have a role to play in putting men and women in front of the public. Because if the young generation see women and men sitting together doing research, we say, it's for me. That's a very easy way, you know, it's the role model activities, but we are very, well, we make our best efforts to promote women researchers in that regard. It's essential. It's essential. It's all about democracy, in a way, you know? Yeah. It's all about democracy.
Yeah, there was another question still. Yeah, please.
Thank you for these interesting reflections. I have a question about citizen engagement of a very particular citizen group. You said that you're working with scholars, with researchers, with the academic community. You said that you need interpreters, but you also said that now the scientific discourse or science speech it's equal as well, regular regular citizen speech, so sometimes it's perceived at the same level. From that perspective, what are the challenges to attract academia, to attract scholars and researchers to your activities? What are the challenges to connect with that group? Very essential. And how do you overcome these challenges?
There are two groups of scientists. The one that need the public for their research. Because they need data, they need to be helped in a way, and so we are convinced very easily to engage with the public because they need their skills, their time, and their engagement. The other part of scientists is the other one, and how can they be helped to talk about their research to the public. And we developed methodologies to address the public, because when you speak about the public, don't use the usual research slides, should I say so, or research panels that you see in scientific congress. It's totally different. So we have to train them, and we know how to do, to have them interact with the public. And sometimes we go in places like cafe, what we call science cafe. So you put scientists and the general public at the same level in a friendly environment. And some of our colleagues developed what we call reversed cafe. It's not the public that asks questions, but that's the opposite, that researchers ask questions to the public, just to find ways to interact more actively or more differently with the public. So that's the way.
Thank you. Time is up. I, of course, have still some questions to you. But yeah, this is a topic that we probably could discuss for much longer than 1 hour. But I think it was also really good to have a bit of an overview and let's say a teaser to continue activities with you. You mentioned presidency of Poland, and you mentioned presidencies in general. So indeed, we will also think about that. The agenda of that exercise is in the making as it comes for Poland's activities in the first half of 25. So let's see. Yeah, this will be something that we will definitely need to continue to really proceed with Horizon Europe, with some other initiatives, and to make them, to shape them in a way that they are really responding to societal needs and making a change in the daily lives of all of us. Thank you again for accepting our invitation and for joining us today. And thank you all for being a part of this event and being active participants. Thank you.
Thank you very much.